I almost had him. Until some flying purple people eater decided he wanted to insert himself into my corner and manage me. The only thing you managed to do was cost me a match. It's okay. That's fine. March 24th, Bigfoot Training Academy, Pelahatchie, Mississippi. Stardust isn't going to be anywhere near the building.
Best of luck this weekend, Shaky McMullen. You bad wrestling idiot. I'm so good at this shit. Before we begin today, I'm duty-bound to read a store page description on the Nintendo Switch for a game called World Neverland Elnia Kingdom. So that's exciting, isn't it? Let's read this. The kingdom simulation game where you immigrate to an imaginary kingdom and enjoy your free life. This is the latest game of the World Neverland, nickname is War Never, series. This is the imaginary kingdom that lives in the computer. You can walk wherever you wish to go. Beautiful woods, river, farms, stock farms, mines, schools, churches and castles. And it simulates the lives of the people who live there finally. Not excellently or perfectly, but finally. It does a decent job. The users who go there... Oops, I've gone up a bit. Fuck. Oh god, there we are. The users who go there and see the real communication with the habitats would feel like they are playing a MMORPG. They would have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and get married, have children, and their children will carry that over. The life in this kingdom is a one-time story that is different every time you play it. This is so much more than the normal game experience and will stay in your heart as a cherished memory forever. Sounds fucking brilliant. Yeah, collector's editions. Boxes of plastic tap that cost maybe half as much to make as to buy, if you're lucky. In truth, I am a bit of a sucker for collector's editions as a lover of junk to begin with, and if a game or series is particularly fantastic, there's a better than awful chance I might be tempted to easily and foolishly part with my money in exchange for a lightweight but nicely detailed skeleton monster that I got excited about because it lights up even though it eats batteries by the mouthful and I'll only ever put it on once and forget about it as a result like we all do. Most collector's editions these days are fairly standardised, consisting of a statue of some kind, a soundtrack CD, an art book, and maybe a handful of other trinkets. The statue is usually the centrepiece, a hunk of plastic often afforded just enough craftsmanship to make them look nice on a shelf, but nowhere near good enough when placed next to better, albeit far more expensive products, from specific tat-focused outlets like Sideshow Collectibles or First Four Figures. Oh shit, they're doing an Ornstein figure, that's awesome. How much? Collector's editions run the gamut from a simple launch day edition that retails for the same price of a regular copy, but it's a bit rarer, to utterly absurd monuments to excess, like Assassin's Creed Origins' $800 Dawn of the Creed Legendary Edition, which costs $800 if I didn't make that clear enough, Jesus fucking Christ. Since digital distribution became commonplace, publishers weren't just satisfied with the lowered production costs, they needed to keep that collector's edition money rolling in, so they conceived the Digital Deluxe Edition, a more expensive version of the regular game that simply comes packed with additional DLC, and often but not always the nigh inescapable and now obligatory season effing pass. Games aren't making enough money, my bollocks. These digital upgrades now typically come in two flavours because there's no such thing as enough money for major publishers, why not double down? So we tend to see both silver and gold editions with ever more carved out in-game content sold at a premium. In the physical realm, a new breed of collector's edition has become popular, one that's falsely advertised the moment it's announced. These alleged collector's editions aren't actually editions of anything because they're nothing but a box of merchandise. They shouldn't be called editions at all, but publishers got away with it years back, so now we see them pop up all the time. The latest game to jump aboard the trinket train was State of Decay 2, announcing its own collector's edition that includes a zombie mask, a literal thumb drive ha-ha, an empty steelbook that's empty, and a brain-shaped stand to display your empty steelbook that's empty. The empty steelbook is empty because, like several available collector's editions from the AAA market, this is a collector's edition that don't have a game in it. Now you might be wondering how you could have a special edition of a video game that doesn't have a video game inside it. Surely, you might think, that's not an edition of anything. It's an addition maybe, but an edition is defined as a specific form of the published media, not as a box of shit. What you have there, State of Decay 2, right, is a box of shit, yeah? The closest you could get away with is calling it collector's packaging, especially if you're selling an empty steelbook that's empty. However, this is the game industry where nothing means anything, so these boxes of shit are called collector's editions. You'll hardly be surprised to learn that Electronic Arts was one of the earliest companies to embrace this idea, if not the earliest. In fact, I was a silly enough prick to get the Dead Space 3 Dev Team Edition back in the day, like the overpaid, undereducated boob that I am. I fully accept I'm part of the problem. But lately it seems EA would like to make Gameless special editions more of a regular feature. Battlefield 1 got such an edition, flogging a particularly plasticky army man and some assorted rubbish for $130. Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't just content to be a thoroughly mediocre slice of software, it too pulled this gimmick with not one, but two overpriced merch boxes that didn't include the bloody point of it. I feel sorry for any poor bastard who spent $200 on a remote-controlled space car, because that's all they really did. They bought a remote-controlled car at an outrageous markup because video games. Of course, EA isn't the only one. As well as Microsoft doing it with State of Decay 2, Bethesda has pulled the same stunt with its $100 Panzerhund edition, offering an action figure that Bethesda cheekily called a statue, among other assorted nonsense, without any Wolfenstein. Because it was significantly cheaper and not billed as exclusively as the Dead Space 3 Dev Team Edition, it looked less like a highly specialised niche product, and consequently drew a lot more public heat. Despite widespread criticism of the Panzerhund edition, however, the Special Edition Game Not Included model is one that EA and Microsoft seem to be big fans of. But why do it? There are obvious and not so obvious reasons for it, all of which seem pretty damn plausible. On the more understandable end of the reasoning spectrum, we have the simple fact that digital distribution is more popular than ever, but people do still really like buying disposable garbage with an artificial sense of value. I know I do. EA Dice offered this as an upfront reason to buy its Battlefield 1 Collector's Edition, stating its Gameless version was there in case you wanted to get Battlefield 1 digitally, but still want an awesome 14-inch statue. Microsoft also implied this in a roundabout way with its State of Decay 2 announcement, claiming, "At Xbox we focus on giving players a lot of choices to show their love for our franchises." Yes, that's right, Microsoft pulled out player choice for those marking your AAA bingo cards available in the special edition of this very episode not included. It also doubtless helps save on packaging if you're not having to rebox a product per platform. If you're releasing a game alongside your merch, you'll need different boxes for specific console versions as well as the PC version. So there's definitely some sense in offering empty steelbooks that are empty for fans to put whatever disc they want inside. As an added plus for customers, it's a way of offering additional shit without making someone rebuy a game. Say someone bought a regular version of Battlefield 1 and loved it more than they expected, to the point of becoming a mega fan and regretting not buying a bumped up edition. With a Gameless version, they can upgrade without having to buy the same game twice. Also, try to imagine the same scenario for Mass Effect Andromeda, and try not to laugh at the concept of someone wishing they'd bought a more expensive version of it. On the more cynical end of things though, we can see how, just like with microtransactions over the years, publishers have found a new way to make more money selling the same old stuff. Let's not forget that collector's editions with games inside retail for pretty much the same as ones that don't. Far Cry 5's Hope County edition has all the trimmings you've come to expect. A gold edition of Far Cry 5, a map, a soundtrack CD, a statue, all the obligatory rubbish, and Ubisoft selling it for $179.99. Compare that to Mass Effect Andromeda, which was basically an empty steelbook that was empty in a fucking remote control car costing a princely $200 on top of the $60 shell price you'd need for a basic content reduced game. And compare that to the Call of Duty Black Ops Prestige Edition, released 7 years prior, which included a working RC car with a bloody camera mounted on it, as well as the steelbook, a medal, and most importantly the game itself for $150. Do please recall that back then, less than 10 years ago, people thought it was overpriced, and it had the game in it. With EA selling a less impressive RC car for much more, it's easy to see why the industry's top predator is licking its drool-slick chops over the whole concept. These games not included collector's editions are ultimately just another way the industry has subtly raised the cost without touching the $60 shell price in a bid to look put upon and impoverished, while raking in more cash than ever. I mean, look again at the Panzerhund edition. They call that a statue, but it's fully articulated plastic. It's an action figure, a toy, an empty steel book that's empty, a shitload of cardboard. That's your Panzerhund edition. That's all it is. Now imagine if it did come included with the game and cost $160. Look at this $160 package and compare it to the Hope County edition, which costs about $20 more and contains all this. Or if you want a game released the same year as Wolfenstein, here's this Dark Souls bric-a-brac, game included, for $120. If it included the game, the Panzerhund edition would go down as one of the flimsiest, shittiest, thriftiest special editions in recent history. But ironically, by taking it out and absorbing the flack for selling a Gameless special edition, Bethesda got away with selling a lot less product for a lot more money. At least one company agrees with me. I contacted Microsoft and Bethesda both to talk about their collector's editions, but neither company got back to me, so that's why I'm having to assume their motives. I do, however, maintain friendly relations with Compulsion Games, developers of We Happy Few, because, full disclosure, I've done work with them. After finding a publisher in Gearbox, We Happy Few went all AAA culture on us and introduced an obligatory collector's set, a box of playthings that, similar to the prior detailed products, didn't include the game. To Compulsion's credit, they subsequently renamed the collector's set to the Time Capsule and worked with Gearbox to make sure they clearly communicate to customers what the contents are. This is miles ahead of what EA, Bethesda and Microsoft have done, where it can actually be quite difficult to ascertain what is and isn't in the box. Mass Effect Andromeda hits players with a confusing array of options when it comes to limited editions and pre-orders, and when you start including gameless versions of all your shite, there's inevitable confusion as people have to consult their game release walkthroughs to find out what versions have what crap. If I were a more jaded person than I already was, I'd suggest that the sheer bombardment of pre-order offerings, retail exclusive offerings, and multiple collector's editions was a deliberate attempt to bewilder and bamboozle the audience in the hopes of them impulsively plonking down as much money as possible and just hoping for the best. But now we're entering into a different topic altogether, so let's get back to collector's editions. I was pleased to see that Compulsion agreed these boxes of shit shouldn't be called collector's editions, though they stated it less swearily than me, saying, "We don't think that collector's editions gives the right impression, and we feel the term shouldn't be used when copies of the game aren't distributed." And they're right. I mean, Microsoft had to update its State of Decay 2 announcement with a clarification on the matter because people found its presentation misleading, which it is. If you're selling an edition of anything that doesn't include the thing you're an edition of, you're quite literally misdirecting your customers. It's not like collector's editions haven't always been a con, like most things in the nerdy geek culture sphere, but to take an existing con and shave the costs even further while quite boldly attempting to trick the audience, well, that's just cheeky, innit? As I said, I'm a lover of cheap plastic tap myself. I mean, I only need to reach down and I can pick up a Mysterio or two. And I've got plenty of collector's edition garbage just hanging around the place. But I do recognise a lot of it is a con. A lot of it is just, like, wheedling money out of us for shitty plastic rubbish, which I'm fine with. Because, as I've said, I've consentingly handed over lots of money to get that shitty plastic rubbish. But selling a collector's edition without a game in it, that genuinely feels like a real proper con job. Not an innocent con, like buying Boglins for way more than they used to cost in the 80s, but a seedy con, like in movies about con people. So I just wanted to really just show off my Mysterio and some of the other collector stuff I have. Didn't even have the good stuff, because my Bloodborne statue and other really good stuff is in the cupboard at the moment, as I just find a good place to put them because I have too much stuff. No, I mean seriously, I have too much tat. Not that I'm giving any of it away, because it's mine. It may get me into trouble with the family, it may take up too much room and make me look like some sort of hoarder, like on the TV show Hoarders, but it's mine, so you can't have it, even though I don't want half of it, because I really did get too much of it, but it's mine, so you can't have it. And that, folks, is capitalism. Thank God for me. Satire. No, it is, that's satire.